Chris Searles. I'm sitting in my trailer where I have my work life located and some dishes up there. I'm going to go through a very impromptu quick report on how well the Central Texas Projects is performing so far. It's been exactly what I was hoping for, except we haven't gotten enough rain. That's the super short synopsis. In a nutshell, we've gotten something like 13 rains. I would claim 10 or more of those were essentially unforecast. They came because of the strategic watering that I was doing. The watering is to stimulate forest moisture circulation. That's what's cooling our atmosphere right now in this time of extreme warming. And the only way to do it that I know of is to water trees and forests. The only way to cool the atmosphere. Today is Tuesday, the 20th of May. I went racing down to Lakey last Monday, the 13th, I think, of May, and did 3 waterings Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday last week in order to fight off the heat wave that was rolling through. That heat wave was forecast to come in at 106 on Tuesday and 107 on Wednesday for Lakey. And then the downwind area of the Central Texas Projects, Kerrville, Austin, etc., San Antonio. What happened instead was after I did 5 waterings before the heat wave rolled in on Tuesday afternoon, the high for that day was around 99 to 100, depending on where you were in town and which thermometer you're looking at. But it was roughly 99. Then the next day, I continued watering. I did another 3 waterings by 3 p.m. The next day, Wednesday, and again, the high was just 99 for the region. We canceled the heat wave. Before that, we were getting rains every 2 days roughly, but the amount of rain is too little. And before that, we were getting greening. We were getting massive greening without raining, blossoms, all these things that are indicators that forest moisture circulation has engaged, that it's working brilliantly, and we just need to keep going, need to keep putting more water into these big trees. The amount of water that I've used so far, roughly 28,000 gallons, so 1.4 swimming pools. An inch of rain on 1 acre is 27,200 gallons. We've brought in somewhere in the range of 3 inches of rain. We have helped bring that in, which again is more than twice the average of the last 4 years. In these 6 weeks of doing waterings, that is, if you just take a sort of a 1 square mile area, 640 acres, that's over 17 million gallons of water as our return on investment for a 1 inch rain. And again, we've brought in cumulatively somewhere in the range of 3 inches of rain in these 13 rains, and that's around 52 million gallons of water on a 1 square mile area, about the size of the Lakey area. Those rains have moved all across the Central Texas Projects area. We've covered everything so far in these rains. It's been ideal, but it's not enough. I say that because, number one, 52 million gallons sounds like a lot, and it is for only putting in 28,000 gallons. That's a huge return on investment. And it's even bigger than that because those rains probably would not have arrived, and they washed Camp Wood southwest of us, they washed Uvalde southeast of us, they went over to San Antonio, they went over to Harper, they went up the middle to Kerrville and into Austin and so forth. So we've gotten complete coverage of multiple rains. We've gotten a lot more than just 52 million gallons out over the region from our 28,000 gallons that we put in. So overall, I just want to go through quickly the effects we've been able to generate by watering trees and forests in the Lakey area, specifically over my sites, over the area of Lakey, and over the greater region of Central Texas, all the way to where I am now in the Dripping Springs region. So first of all, the forecasts are bouncing around all over the place. When I water, rain comes into the forecast. When I stop watering, rain goes out of the forecast. Number 2, the precipitation. I mentioned that we got this, incredible amount of rain relative to the amount of water we put in. There's a couple of more things here. The transpiration drops that are shown in some of the videos are pretty regular. They are lighter than can even be filmed sometimes, but you can feel them on your skin. You can sometimes see them. And when those happen, those are fire prevention. That's our number 1 goal here, is to make it impossible for wildfire to take over the area. There's another interesting aspect about the way the precipitation cycles are moving. When I water in the lakey area, almost every time I water, when I finish, if I have the sense that the air circulation is moist there and it's moving, I check the phone map from AccuWeather, and near Piedras Negras there'll be rain every single time. This is like part of that system that I've been working with since 2023. Another aspect of the incredible and repeatable, and you can do this too, effects that I'm having on the lakey area are the clouds and the transpiration dome. So specifically, we had that heat wave forecast last week for the Tuesday, Wednesday heat spike. Instead, what we got was the low temperatures and a misty cloud cover. It really rolled in on the Wednesday. It really cooled things down, and we had beautiful hazy air Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when I left. 4 days of unusually misty, hazy air that is cool air, and I expect they had it again yesterday on Monday the 19th. But this is moisture circulation that's visible. It looks like smoke to most people, but there's no smell. It looks like maybe aerosols or some sort of spray, but there's no smell. There's only the feeling of being cooled and more comfortable because it's mist in the air. It's not humidity, it's cool air molecules chilled by the moisture moving out of the trees and moving through the air. And those same molecules have not only this umbrella effect that I've talked about in some of the other videos, but they darken in general the entire sky. So I talk about a transpiration dome, I talk about gray light, and at the event that I did there in Lakey on Saturday, I noticed specifically that when I started I was at a place called the Springs. When I started doing the watering, we were full sun, and it was pretty harsh, and the watering got going, and all of a sudden we were still full sun, but the light was not harsh. The light was gray and soft again over us in this outdoor area all afternoon Saturday, and then we got clouds directly over our tree and the sunbrella effect and so forth. But it just got really comfortable after I began the watering on that day. There's also, we're still on clouds, there's also this repeatable effect where it increases the number of clouds, it increases the amount of cloud cover, not only in the forest, but also in the forecasts. I believe 2 weeks ago it was just full sun, full sun, full sun, full sun. What we ended up with was a very cloudy week. And if you really study through the forecast, you can see that I water and rain comes into the forecast, I water and clouds come into the forecast. If clouds were in the forecast, usually they increase in the amount of clouds or the amount of days that are forecast to be cloudy. So this is a lot of stuff, and we're still not done. Then there's the cooling effects. I mentioned we were forecast to get 106 and 107. Essentially we got 99 and 99. Then we had a heavy heat on Friday of last week, the 16th or the 17th, whatever that was. And so we moved the heat wave around. We were able to intervene and mitigate it on the 2 days it was supposed to hit, but then there was another effect that came through, and we had intense sunlight and cool air on Friday of last week, which was a really weird experience. The quality of the cool air is different after you do these tree waterings. It's lighter. The air moves in a lighter way. It bathes your skin in a way that's just purely comfortable and pleasurable. We've increased all those things rather than going into drought and further into drought and into high heat days that are dangerous for your health. We peel all that back and put moisture into the air, and it just makes the day pleasant and wonderful, and we're moving out of drought. So in the last 3.5 weeks or so, to sum this up, we got a 2-inch rain. We got roughly in the last 4 weeks roughly 13 rains. I've been working directly with my new friend up in Lakey area, I'll call him Morgan, and Morgan is this brilliant dude. We've been talking about what it is can be done and what I'm trying to do and so on and so forth. I told Morgan about 3 weeks ago when he said we'd never get raindrops at our house anymore, so let's work on that. Let's see if we can get raindrops. I went and did a pre-watering to get the system moving, and then the first day I did a rainmaking with trees watering on his site. We got raindrops that morning while I was doing the watering, and then again that night. They've had raindrops 3 times fully on their property since I started watering on their property. We knocked that out of the park. to some degree. We need more rain, but we made it happen. We brought rain to his site, which he said wasn't happening for the last several years. This past week, when I started there on Monday, I told him I'm going to try and knock this heat wave out. We can achieve heat diffusion with these waterings. I've done it before, mostly unintentionally. I've done it a couple times intentionally in 2023, and now I'm going to shoot for it again in 2025. I had done it in urban settings in Austin. I wasn't 100% sure, but I saw what happened in the Northwest and Southwest projects with trying to do rainmaking. It also brings in a lot of cool air. So I just applied all of that prior experience to working in Lakey, and lo and behold, rather than getting 106 and 107, we got 99 and 99. This is because I'm trying to recapacitate the forest system with hydration so that it can achieve heat diffusion. It doesn't want to be baked either. It doesn't want to be fried and, cooked any more than we do, the forest system. The forest system wants to be at about 86 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and 71 degrees on its internal temperature. And that the way it achieves that is by circulating moisture through the air through photosynthesis or just respiration, just breathing. What most living things have to do is breathe. And when forests do it, when they're well hydrated, they cool everything and stabilize all the weather. Lastly, I'll say back to the main point, the Central Texas projects is about trying to achieve drought reversal to the point of knocking out the wildfire threat that was clear and present over Central Texas in April. And now we're in middle to late May. In early April, I took a drive to see how bad the drought was south of Austin, between essentially Camp Wood and Austin and San Antonio and Uvalde, that general area. And I was shocked and terrified because I saw what appeared to be at least tens of thousands of dead oak trees. Then I started watering in Harper, because I knew I was going to move from Harper to Lakey and probably back around the other side to San Antonio area. I started watering in Harper, and after the second day, it was a complete and utter change for everywhere downwind of Harper, where it went from looking bleak and dead to suddenly being a little bit green. And I couldn't believe it. I know these things are what happens, and I'm the person out here doing this, but it's so dramatic and so quick, because biology is the best technology. Biology is, an organism wants to live. So you give it anything to help it do better physically, it will make the most of that little thing, including a little bit of moisture moving through the air that you can't even see. And so I put the water into the big trees in Harper, and as I'm driving back home each day from my watering, it's getting greener and greener and greener starting on the second day. I did a second day, third day, fourth day. On the fourth day, it was basically already unrecognizable from what I had seen the prior week. I did go back through Harper on the exact same drive Sunday of this week, just 2 days ago, and it doesn't look a whole lot different than it did on the fourth day, except of watering downwind where the damage was the worst, except that it looks even more sort of stable. Like the dead trees, they're just gone, and they're surrounded by moister soil, greener vegetation than they've known in a number of years. So while that area is still somewhat dangerous in terms of being fire prone, it's basically out of the fire prone possibility. In fact, we're getting fires in Arizona and New Mexico and other parts of the Northeast, but we're not getting them in Central Texas, where we're in exceptional drought, the worst stage of drought. I submit to you that that's because of these waterings, because there's just enough greenness already in the system that things don't catch fire. They really can't catch fire. So the answer is to water trees and forests. We're cutting things to try and minimize water use in plants, and that is the wrong thing to do. The trees know how to minimize water use. The plants know how to minimize water use. What we're also doing that's making the drought worse is taking water out of the rivers, out of the aquifers, putting it into our buildings, right? And so we need to rebalance. We don't need to sit around and criticize ourselves and each other about who's doing the wrong thing. We need to each do the right thing. We need to each water trees and forests with this simple, easy solution that everyone can do. It's one bucket, one hole in that bucket, and one tree at a time. And you can do 100 gallons per tree of 18 inches diameter or more. Trickle, trickle, trickle. Let those buckets take 30 minutes at least to empty their 5 gallons of water. If we each do this, we can move more cooling through the air, we can move more greening onto the landscape, we can protect ourselves and our property from fire, we can save biodiversity and create more livable habitats for the rest of the species on the landscape, including the food we're growing that's vegetative and meat based, including the creatures people like to hunt on these ranches, and including, other extremely important investments, such as our own homes and, just landscapes, the places that we love to be, the places that we live. All this stuff can be protected with a few thousand gallons of water distributed on a few hundred trees. All right, so with that, I leave you to say I wish I had time to make longer video that are better than this one with visuals, but I had to give you some sort of report to say we're essentially winning right now on the Central Texas projects. This is a one-person staff doing 3 waterings a day, most days down in Lakey, to try and get the moisture to accumulate, circulate, and then move downwind over this droughted region. And that helps the entire state. It seems to be working. Imagine if there were 4 of me working in Texas. Imagine if we had some of the government resources in place, or if we had a private funder or another type of funder send some money to BioIntegrity, this nonprofit, so that we can expand this operation to protect people and property and other species for the long term and make our lives safer and more comfortable. It doesn't cost much, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it right now. As you can see, my office is not in the skyscraper. It's in a little trailer in the country. So, with all that good news, I hope you will get into watering trees and forests this year. I hope you'll support BioIntegrity and the Central Texas projects and our upcoming project WTF, Water, Trees, and Forests. I'll see you soon with another update, but we're winning. We got to work a lot harder to keep that going. Please join me. I'm Chris Searles. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.